magical miracle stuff.
I'll pray.
Just go ahead and pray.
Please.
The room mics are on because I was using those to record yesterday.
Oh. These two.
Come on, little baby. Oh,
There she go. There she go. Okay.
Thank you for coming on. Yeah.
We appreciate you.
I didn't think to you that Luke is going to say something at the very end of the service before the final proposal for the party. But I'll invite him up. So I want that microphone.
Number three.
Yeah,
Your mic.
my personal.
Your mic.
Right before the December departure. Oh.
People are listening.
The live stream got us saying, come on, there she
Well, let's get a little behind the scenes. Yeah, sorry.
Hi, everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah, right, exactly. Booked it. At least we didn't swear.
I always have a fear that these mics are on, they're going to catch Maddie and I say
Oh, yeah,
something
yeah,
up
sure.
here, and I'm like, oh goodness.
I only turn, most of the time I just turn those on during songs, like the choral singing. You know, so that, like the congregational singing, I'll turn these on so that the congregation comes through. Stacy. I've done this a long time, so.
Oh, it's still recording this.
What? The laptop. Yeah. That's it. That's it. Okay. You want to run the intro? Oh, I'm still playing. Sorry. There we go. Good morning.
We welcome you whether you are a member, a visitor, or first-time visitor, whether you are here with us in person or joining us via live stream. More information about RVCC, our values, and our upcoming events can be found on our website, rvccucc.org. We acknowledge that we gather today in the ancestral homelands of the Coast Salish people, past and present. We honor with gratitude the land itself and the Coast Salish people who are alive and active in this region, continuing to honor and bring to light their ancient heritage, and seeking justice and equity and freedom. For those present in this space today, thank you for silencing your protest. Later in the service, we will have time for prayers and communion. If you have something you'd like to share, please take a moment, write it on the index card, we'll find the meeting. During our prayer time, a member of the worship board will come by and pick them up. For those at home, you'll find links to service resources in the description box of this video, including prayer and reading or reading. Thank you for joining us for worship. Something grossly overlooked in the creative process in the place of effortlessness and play. In the story of creation, God blessed it. And that was very good as well. Staying too focused on deadlines and how every moment can be productive robs us of an important feature when it's meant to be human, daily living that God is. Pushing through is non-sustainable, and creativity suffers from constant movement. Celebration is necessary along with the journey. God's creativity is ongoing. So while the story said God is finished and then rested, really it was simply a pause to reflect, to observe, and to celebrate, and then God continued God's creation, rest, and works.
We'll sing together our opening song, our threshold song. Your response is in the insert in your bulletin. Let us the words will also be on the screen. You remain seated and listen. and I invite you to rise to write your words.
Our contemporary reading today is from the Sabbath poem written by Wendell Berry. This series of poems was published in Contemporary Quiet, the Sabbath Poems, 1979 to 1997. This poem is Sabbath Prayer in Fire. Whatever it is foreseen in joy must be lived out or from the Lord. Vision held open in life by our 10,000 days of work. Our lips will fill open for that the hair will ache. The face will sweat. And yet, no need for brain is filled by work of ours. The field is filled and left to waste. That we may reap great work with them while we are sleeping. When work the Sabbath and we rest on our days and find us.
Sometimes my energy is very excitable up here. Which kind of sometimes is contradictory to the idea of rest. However, the energy of the congregation this morning is feeling restful. So I offer you New Rest, Young Work by Van Gogh. You can feel it, right? You can lean into
Makes me irritable.
Process of our creativity than being exhausted. So when we rest, we Christians like to call that Sabbath. You know, it's funny about Sabbath. We take it as a commandment, right? But in the Hebrew text, it's really translated as 10 ideals. So the Sabbath rest isn't ideal, not a commandment necessarily, because we like to shorten everything up. Observe the Sabbath day and keep it holy. Very concise. And we like to put it, inscribe it on the floors, and put it on the statues, and put it in places that maybe shouldn't even be. It's interesting though, because I've learned over the years, and this is a conversation we have. You're going to hear Bill read Exodus this morning, and Exodus is very clear. Observe the Sabbath, keep it holy, but it's in the idea that we rest as God rested. God created for 6 days and rested on the seventh. That we are mirroring what God does and He's given to us, and so we rest as God taught us to rest. That's interesting. It also lists the people who should rest: you, your wife, their sons, their daughter, your worker, your land, and the immigrant. I wonder why that's there. Let's think about that, because faith formation asks why. And to find the answer to why, you gotta go to the next part of the Bible, which is Deuteronomy, where we hear this exact same Sabbath rest story again, except it these added words. This is a reminder to you, children of Israel. You too were a slave in the land of Egypt, and your Lord your God brought you out from there by a mighty hand and an outstretched arm, and therefore the Lord your God commanded you to keep the Sabbath day of rest. We added extra stuff there, because Sabbath was a reminder of the rest and redemption. In Deuteronomy, there's an additional acknowledgement in remembering the freedom from bondage of the slaves in Egypt. Faith formation leads us then to practice Sabbath as justice. Sabbath is a justice issue. Rest is a human
For all people, right? Sabbath is a justice issue for a work week, right? I don't know, maybe it's like the first labor law. Rest for the land and the people who work it. Rest so as not to create rest for someone else. How often do you have a Sabbath and there's a whole bunch of other people working so that you can have your Sabbath? It isn't a Sabbath when we work to create work that enslaves another person. But we do need rest. We can practice resting this way. If we rest, then we're better able to let others rest, because Sabbath and rest is a human right. So when we practice resting this way, maybe we can all be a little less cranky and more patient, a little less frustrated and more productive, a little less closed-minded and more creative, a little less hopeless and a little more hopeful. Because then when we are rested, we can outstretch our arms to give rest for someone else and work to benefit their rest. Faith formation asks us to practice Sabbath as justice. Amen.
As Stacy said, our scripture reading today comes from the book of Exodus, chapter 20, verses 8 through 11. Remember the Sabbath day and treat it as holy. 6 days you may work and do all your tasks, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. Do not do any work on it, not you, your sons or daughters, your male or female servants, your animals, or the immigrant who is living with you. Because the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and everything that is in them in 6 days, but rested on the seventh. This is why the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. Here ends the reading.
Good morning. Yep, it's working. Just checking. So today is our final Sunday in this series we call Drawn In, Co-Creating with the Divine. And so I wanted us to have the opportunity to engage someone that we are co-creating with as a congregation that we have never met before. Did you know that RBCC donates funds to several ministry partners every year like clockwork? We may be having Sabbath, but one of the wonderful things about ministry partners is while one partner rests, another partner might work. And when it's time for their Sabbath, we may step in and pick up where there's a need. One of our relatively new ministry partners, I think, is an organization called New Beginnings. And when Anna and I started interacting with each other, trying to work out how to get some faces for our ministry partners, I asked, could we have a partner come and share with us how they are co-creating with God, how we are imagining together and being drawn in by the holy, even when we don't necessarily all understand the holy the same way. Doesn't matter. The work is there, and the need is always present. I hope I get your name right. Is it Neba? Neba. I thought it might be Neba. And I'm Jill, and this is Neba Say it.
I'm Neba from New Beginnings. I love like Madonna. I like to go by my first name.
Okay. That's good. I do too, because my last name is just too much trouble. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Can everybody hear me okay? No, we gotta have we gotta have the mic? Okay, perfect. Can I travel with this thing or? Take it off here. Perfect. I'm a walker.
Some room.
Yeah, a little range. Thank you so much. Oh, thank you. Is someone working yet? Not yet.
Okay. We got this. Want to do this?
Hello. Does that work yet? Okay. Well, thank you so much for having me. My name is Neba. I'm from New Beginnings. And New Beginnings is a secular organization. We're a 501c3. But I just wanted to share that personally, I'm so grateful to be here. I am a cousin of the Abrahamic faith. I'm Muslim, so my Sabbath is Friday. And Ramadan is coming up, so I'm going to have many Sabbaths. And also, I grew up going to Christian school, so this was just such a beautiful way to start my day, to feel invited into a faith community. I really miss my faith community back home, so lovely. I'm really honored that you all would invite us in. I love sharing the work we do at New Beginnings. I've been at New Beginnings for almost 4 years, but in the domestic violence movement for about 10. It does feel like a spiritual calling for myself, being able to serve people and give families and people the skills and tools you need to have healthy relationships is a huge passion. So our mission is to end domestic violence, and we do that not only through supporting survivors in your community, but also doing prevention services in the community as well. So if you ever need to contact us, say you have someone that you know, you have a friend who's in social work and they need a resource for a client, anything whatsoever, we have a 24-hour Hope line, and this is for all of King County. So if you know someone down south in Kent, you can always have them call this exact number. It's 206-737-0242. Best part about these types of numbers is you can Google them. You can Google them anytime, anywhere, so you do not need to have that memorized. And if you generally want to get to know us, reach out to us, you don't know who the right person is, info@newbegin.org is always a great place. My email will be at the end of it. You can always reach out to me personally, but those usually get a faster response because, I got Sabbaths, I got PTO, and usually these ones are monitored by more people. So we've been around for almost 50 years. Next year will be our 50th anniversary. We'll probably do something big. Y'all will be invited. But we have 4 service programs that we go through. We have a community advocacy program, a home safe program, a social change program. Oh, and something got cut off there. We'll see it in just a bit. And our DV Hope line. Our DV Hope line, like I mentioned, is all of King County. We connect you with other organizations too. So if you want to get connected to Dawn in South King County, LifeWire in East King County, we're still the right people to call. Our advocates are trained for months, so please do not hesitate to give people this number. We're really open to taking the conversation where they want to go. Sometimes people don't even know that they're going through domestic violence and they call us. And so we're ready to have that conversation even when they're not sure what they're going through, when they're not sure they want to leave, when they want to stay. We help survivors in any condition. Our community advocacy program provides a wide variety of supports. We're really thinking about what do people need immediately and long-term to recover. So basic needs, like we'll get them connected to social service programs, government benefits, and then we also provide things like counseling, support groups. We have a legal advocacy clinic and a tech clinic. So if somebody thinks that their devices are being monitored, they need a little bit of support with their technology, we will also support them through that. There are some housing advocacy, so we might do some rent support assistance. We might figure out some housing resources, but we have a very robust housing program called Home Safe, and it's not a shelter. So we're not seeing the amount of numbers like we've served 50 people through the year, but I will tell you, of the people that we serve, about 17 units, we have really strong long-term outcomes because these are all individual apartment units. So people can bring their pets, their extended family members, because we know that not everybody can single parent a lot. People need their village, people need their systems with them. And we know that survivors, those are some of the biggest barriers to getting housing support. We love what we do at CAP. We have a confidential site in King County. We have advocates on site, so they're very accessible. Our social change program is my baby. I love it. I don't run it, but I help with a lot of these programs. We do 12-week middle school programs. So students not only learn about the red flags of a relationship, they learn about conflict resolution, they learn about accountability, they learn about bystander intervention. They have all these well-rounded skills that actually support them having healthy relationships. We have a few really cool, unique leadership programs. One of them that I'm proud of is that I run a peer consent education program with a counselor at Shorecrest. And so it's really student-led. When I say I run it, I don't really run it. The teens run it. I just get involved with trainings and supporting them where they need. They're really smart, amazing people. So if you hear of their work, please shout them out. They're awesome. They've taught like high schoolers, middle schoolers. We're really getting the word out there. And these are really what we try to teach teens and adults about healthy relationships. On your way out, there's going to be these like teen zines on one of the tables. It says Crushing It. You can take one if you have a teen at home, somebody that you care about. It goes through a lot of the stuff about what's healthy, what's not healthy in a relationship. So we define what domestic violence is. We give them a really clear understanding of 8 signs. And the signs that we focus on are emotional, because a lot of people don't talk about what are the different ways people emotionally manipulate and harm. Really why we see that survivors stay and why resources like us exist is there's a lot of financial and material barriers. We know that things are expensive. Healthcare is something that's tied to marital status. Safety, when you leave, the abuse could escalate. That's often the most dangerous time. We notice that survivors who are pregnant, who are reliant on housing, who have a volatile partner, these are really hard things to do when it comes to their safety. Family and social, there might be kids involved. Maybe the family set and arranged the marriage or the connection. Maybe the family believes that we should be trying as much as possible to save the relationship. There's a lot of cultural and social barriers for people wanting to leave. And then the last is emotional and psychological. A lot of times survivors who want to leave and want to be independent, they'll still miss their partner. They still go through those feelings because we're all human. It's just real. So there's a lot of reasons why survivors stay, and often we're existing as a resource because survivors don't have the resources to be able to navigate this on their own. They come to us and they start to realize, oh, wait, nobody's ever told me that I can leave a relationship, or I never figured out how to get healthcare on my own. So we're really focused on not only getting them out of an abusive relationship, but really getting them to a place of independence and empowerment. Last but not least, this is again where you can contact us. If you want to check out our website, there's a QR code, but we have plenty of resources. In the back, there's a brochure in English and Spanish on your way out as well. And if you ever wanted to learn more, you wanted to hear more from the advocates, more about these specific programs, we have a ton of videos on our YouTube. There's also a QR code there. You can just look up New Beginnings YouTube, or you can email me, I'll send it to you. But if anybody has any questions, I believe I have like a few minutes, like 3-5 minutes to take them. Yes, you have. Do we work in Snohomish County? We do have partners in Snohomish County, and sometimes our hotline coverage takes over a little bit of Snohomish County. So with hotlines, there's some laws about how staff coverage works. So we take some county lines in Pierce County, Snohomish, but we might need to work with survivors on that one. I say don't let that stop you. Feel free to call us and we'll work with people on that. Any other questions? Yeah. I run the volunteer program, so yes, we do. Sometimes our support groups really need new volunteers. And sometimes our volunteer needs kind of change throughout the year. So depending on the events we need, the outreach we're doing, I try to find a collaborative model that really highlights what you like to do with what our organization's need is. And then we try to figure out what training do you need, because as a domestic violence organization, we have a few state requirements we have to meet to let volunteers work with survivors. So that's usually our only barrier, but you can always reach out to me. You can talk to Pastor Jill or Anna, and they can connect you with me. My email is also over here, and we can talk about that. Yes.
I'm wondering if you're seeing trends in working with teens or the folks who are coming to you, over the last 5 years or so in issues that are coming up.
Yeah, COVID was a really hard thing. I felt like, especially with the middle schoolers, I resumed working in person with middle schoolers in 2021, and we noticed that there was like kind of a backslide in people's ability to communicate in person, to communicate through conflicts, to connect. And so a lot of what we had to do was revamp a little bit of our curriculum to include more digital forms of communication and including media literacy. We found that was like a huge thing we had to impact. And it always has been, but over the last years has had more impact on teens.
You make me wonder, sometimes middle schools and high schools will advocate for a parent that needs help, and I'm wondering if you connect with public school counselors, so there's a resource at school to get to you.
Yeah, I would say that our social change program works primarily with the youth. So usually when that referral is made, it's probably made to our Hope Line or to advocates who might be working a little bit separately, possibly just to maintain a little bit of like confidentiality for the parent. I know that we're always happy to talk to people in person. We have a mobile advocacy kind of way that we run, but typically when when intakes are made, our referrals are made, we usually connect via the hotline. So that way, that advocate has a really good idea of like maybe what the broad needs are, or maybe if there's a need that we need to start with. Usually if we get brought into schools, it's primarily to work with the teens. But we do really love working with our counselors to identify any specific needs. And we do have parent workshops we run at schools as well. Any other questions? Yes.
I'm concerned about the fact that some of our social services seem to be under threat of withdrawal. And how do you do it?
That's a really good question. Thank you for asking. Probably like you all, every few days I find myself giving a big deep breath at the end of my workday, like not another day. But when the federal freezing thing happened, we did a lot of work and internally to figure out what we needed. And luckily there's a legal slowdown of that freeze happening, so we're still getting the funding resources. But I would say some of the immediate impacts was we have a lot of our housing funding tied to that money. So being able to provide housing directly, pay for it, subsidize it is really difficult without that money. And on the immediate cash loss, like one of the things that we almost did was like ask everybody for about $200, $400 because that's how much it costs for us to $200 is what it takes for us to provide 4 children in our housing facility with diapers and formula. So that was money that we were just going to completely lose. Aside from the millions, I think rely on like $2 million of federal funding, but just that immediate to the children impact. So we're really grateful for community partners like you all. Like this is how we stay sustainable throughout the political waves of the last 50 years is people like you. Any last questions? I'll take one more. Okay, Windows. I work with teens and kids, so you know it when I use these tricks. Well, thank you so much for having me. It was so lovely to be with you all, and I really appreciated the service that I got to experience so far. Thank you. No campsite rules here. Thank you. Thank you so much.
as we prepare our hearts and minds and voices to join together in prayer, a member of the worship board will be coming by to pick up your prayer cards.
I invite you to sing with me. Make it so, make it so. We pray for that day, make it so. We dream of a world where love reigns among us, and your will is done. Oh God, make it so.
If you are comfortable doing so, I invite you to close your eyes for just a moment so that you can listen without distraction. Take a moment to breathe in and out, and in and out. And imagine that your stresses and anxieties, your deadlines, your sleepless night fall away down your shoulders, your arms, all the way to the floor. I invite you to imagine your own life and what it could look like if you could create more Sabbath time in it. What are the triggers that produce that overwhelmed feeling in you? Imagine yourself in that situation and then transport yourself in your mind's eye to a more tranquil place. How will you rest and regenerate? What work will you do and who will you collaborate with in order to get that work done? Today, as we share our joys and concerns with one another, let us pray especially for the following. Please pray for Eli, our longtime friend of Matt's, who has stopped treatment for pancreatic cancer. Prayers also for our neighbor Paul, who is in the ICU in San Diego. And we say peace, shalom, salam. And prayers of thanks for the thoughts and prayers and messages of support and encouragement. My challenges continue with a follow-up bladder surgery on Friday. I pray for a successful outcome, as do we. This from Mark Borleski. And we say peace, shalom, salam. Let us also add to our prayers Shirley and Sharon. Let us also add all of those who struggle to know where to turn when it seems like life is hopeless. May we be partners in all the ministries and programs in our community that provide hope to those who need it. And now, let us share together in a unison prayer as we pray, loving God, within and around us, we revere you. We seek to live life as you would want us to do. with love and respect for all people and all things in the universe. May we find each day sufficient for our needs and find forgiveness when we do wrong, just as we forgive those who do wrong to us. In times of trouble, may we center our lives in you, for your being is love, which comes with strength and with beauty throughout eternity. Amen.
Make it so, make it so. We pray for the day, make it so. We dream of a world where love reigns among us and your will is done. Oh God, make it so.
This is a moment where every lay leader figures, what am I going to say at the stewardship moment? And I pondered it a little bit and trying to stay in context with what's going on through the service. I decided I'll go with my first thought. And I've decided to share a story from my youth. Now, this is a repeat story. Some of you may have heard it before. The great thing about being a storyteller is you can make it sound different every single time you tell it. I've shared this story recently with my good friend George Barnes and my other good friend Larry Kurlick at PFJ's this last Thursday. As a child, play was normal. Every summer, my parents, I wouldn't say every summer, I think it was every third summer, my parents would get tired of my brother and myself, so they'd send us off to my grandparents. And I grew up in Portland, Oregon. Grandparents lived in St. Paul, Minnesota. Road trip, and we met up. We'd drive from Portland to Billings, Montana, and we'd meet up with my grandparents there because my grandfather's sister, my great Aunt Furl, lived in Billings, Montana. We'd have a small family reunion and then take off in a day or two and head on to St. Paul. At the end of summer, Mom and Dad made that long trip all the way to St. Paul to pick us up. And they always left a few days' time where they could decompress. And Minnesota is the land of 10,000 lakes. And we did a lot of swimming and a lot of water sports, rock skipping, a lot of fishing. And when my dad came up with my mom, we made sure we had at least 1 and usually 2 days of fishing before we headed back home on the long road trip home. We were sitting in a boat in this little pond. My brother and I was 8, he was 7. No, he was 6, I'm sorry. We used cane poles. We hadn't graduated to a rod and reel. We had a cane pole with the line and the bobber and the leader and the weight and the hook and the bait. Okay. Very boring, watching the bobber float around, float around, float around. And then when it bobs up and down, with our little pole, you just simply pulled it up as high as you could and brought in the line and brought your catch into the boat. We fished for crappies, we fished for bullheads, we fished for sunfish. There wasn't a lot of big catches there. My little brother all of a sudden says, "I got a fish on." And he started to bring his line into the boat. And I looked over. Okay, let me give you a little more perspective. My dad's at the stern of the boat. He's leaning against the motor. My grandpa was sitting in front of him. Then there was me, and my little brother was near the bow. So he's leaning over and he sees he has a fish on. He starts to bring it into the boat, and I lean over and I say, "It's a good looking size sunfish you've got there." And then all of a sudden, out of the black of this pond we're in, I see these jaws come up, and a pike grabs a hold of this sunfish. My brother weighs 35 pounds soaking wet. And this pike just gives him a lurch. And he heads to the side of the boat. My dad, I never saw my father move so fast in his life. From the stern of the boat, all the way across my grandfather, over me, grabs a hold of my little brother by his belt and starts to pull him in. My brother was not going to let go of that fish. Those two fish, they worked and they worked. Dad was struggling to hold Brian in the boat, and Brian was struggling to hold onto his cane pole and bring his catch in. After maybe 5 minutes, he brought them both in, saved both the sunfish and the pike. I've never seen my little brother so proud. This fish was half the size he was. And when Grandma cooked it up, she presented it in front of him. This whole big fish, which would feed the entire table. So you're going to wonder, what does this have to do with stewardship? I want you to think of not limiting your expectations. Don't think of your catch as a lowly little crappie or a lowly little sunfish. Think of the unexpected. Think of what you may be able to reel in with your best effort. We've supported many, many wonderful missions in this congregation. Let's not start thinking small. Expect the unexpected. Put your effort, as you always have, towards the greatest accomplishment. Now, if you want to support our mission, I lost my glasses somewhere here. I never used to have to use these. To support our mission, you can text RBCC 1512 to 1-888-364-GIVE or 4483 and follow the prompts to give. You can visit our website at rbcc.org and give directly online or send a check to the address listed there. For those of you here, there is a QR code in the back of the order of service or a plate in the back of the sanctuary. Your gifts will help us put your love and our love into action. Don't limit that love. Expect the unexpected. Put in the effort you always have. Thank you.
Our closing song is number 278 in your hymnal. The words will also be on the screen. I invite you to find them as you like them and rise as you're able to join me in singing.
Redeemer God, redeeming sin.
Now I come to the opportunity to take the worship spirit with us as we consider the many things happening in the life of the church. We just had a very busy week of wonderful things, and I've been asked to pass along gratitude for the music program, for your attendance at the recital yesterday, as well as the outreach of your donations of food in yesterday's food drive in support of the Edmonds Food Bank. I had two excited people come up to me to tell me today they collected 1,100 pounds of food yesterday. This week is a little calmer. Thank you again, Neba, for sharing about new beginnings this morning. If you have questions, please bring them to Anna Sterner, who can pass them along directly. Please help us complete our local church profile by filling out the RBCC demographics poll. You may access the poll by visiting the homepage of the new RBCC app. I understand there are also copies in the back where you could fill those out directly. Remember, the committee is asking for names solely to prevent double counting or undercounting members. They will not be shared. We have two ongoing volunteer opportunities. First, signups are open to help host the Coffee and Fellowship Hour. Signups are available at RBCC emails or talk with Marcia Parrish. And you can sign up to assist the Ronald Commons Cafe. This is my baby. To help you feed our neighbors. Excuse me. If you have questions, you can talk to me. You can talk to Paul Hudson, Corrine Ballas. We'd be happy to talk with you. We love hearing from you. We really need volunteers. And I want to thank you very much for listening to our announcements. One more announcement comes from Jill this morning.
Elizabeth, do you want to come up and make this one? There's always a last-minute announcement that we don't know about till we get in.
And that's because we just confirmed today, we have listened to you. We have heard that we still have a need for a restorative conversation from angst we felt from previous meetings, specifically the January 2020 meeting. So we're just doing a save the date right now on Saturday, March 22nd from 9 o'clock to 10:30. We are going to be doing a restorative conversation. We'll give more details. It's going to be off-site. We're going to bring in a professional therapist and give you a chance to heal, just be. All are welcome. We'll give you more information, but please save that day. Again, Saturday, March 22nd from 9 to 10:30.
Thank you for being here today. It is always good to see you in this space. There will be a time of fellowship downstairs following the conclusion of the service, and you will not want to miss that. And now, as we prepare to conclude this time of worship together, may you see the unfolding of each new day as an opportunity to co-create with God. May you feel the divine pull toward creating more kindness, justice, and mercy in the world. May you know the nudge of the creative spirit within and go forward and make belief in all you are and do. And now, I believe, Amen is in order, and then Luke has an announcement he would like to share.
Hi, can you hear me? So a few weeks ago, as many of you know, I hurt my right thumb and I had to cancel my recital. I started working on the pieces that I chose for today, Alexander Scriabin's Prelude and Nocturne for the left hand. So if it sounded like I was struggling with a relatively simple piece for the Prelude, that's why. But so I've been practicing that, and I just thought, oh, I might as well play that for the day when the theme is relaxation because my right hand is resting. So yesterday we had a recital here, and seconds before we started, I was on stage and looked at my phone to turn it off, and I got a text that my teacher had passed away. And this, Monique, she was a very, very important person to me, fascinating person, and someone who I've thought about like probably almost every day, though I haven't seen her for 10 years. And then I realized that this piece that I had chosen happens to be the last thing I ever heard her play. She was left-handed, so it's easier for her. But yeah, I decided that the recital, once I do reschedule it, my solo recital, it's going to be in her memory because I have a lot more I could say about her. She had a career, international performing career that spanned 6 or 7 decades. She's the person who taught me what it meant to devote yourself to music. She told me once that she had this scar on her face that she covered every day with makeup from when she was a little girl riding her bike in the countryside, and she hit a rock or something and she went over the handlebars, and in that moment in midair she decided to shield her hands rather than her face. So without further ado, I will play the Nocturne. you.